Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of our Creative Heart Prompt Journey. And I'm coming to you today out of my freshly painted art studio. So it's so much fun to have some of my art up that came out of storage. And let me quickly give you a peek here. I'm also redoing my unicorn. It's busy going through a transformation. That's so exciting. So today, the Creative Heart prompt for this week is to use resist techniques in your art journal or on your canvas, and to see how that can create interesting patterns and textures in your work. So if you allow me, I will show you how I created this page in my art journal. So give me a second, I'm going to turn the camera around. Let me show you how. Hi, my name is Gideon. I'm also known as Gideon Slight. Welcome to my studio, and I'm your creatively fit coach. So join me now. Right, so this afternoon we are going to be playing with an acrylic technique called resist. And there are many ways that you can resist your paint or mask out your paint in acrylics that is available for you. But today I'm going to be playing with a very simple tool. This is just a China marker. So it's a wax crayon really. And because it's on a finer point, it really gives us opportunity to create these resist methods, because I'm going to be using my acrylic inks with lots of water, and because this is wax based, then we'll have that resistance for the color to take there, and this gives me this beautiful pattern and sort of feeling. So I want to show you guys exactly how I created these using my fingerprint to create these marks on these small little pages. I even used my fingers and my hand. So that's very interesting patterns that shows up, and I used the China marker just to create these little marks and lines where the ink would have been resisted. So that is really a very nice effect. I've got some pretty colors here in my art journal today, and I thought I wanted to play on this page. So I'm going to put that aside and just show you guys exactly how I created these little pages, so that you can also replicate it if you want to. This is just ordinary office paper, nothing special about it. I used Payne's Grey in a palette, and I put my finger in it, and I literally just created these marks. And when it was dry, I came over again with my pastel acrylics and I recreated little prints, and I just left them to dry. So now I'm going to continue to play with them and show you guys how easy that can be. So I'm just using my ordinary white China marker, and I decided just to go around each mark that I made, each fingerprint, and just, you know, sort of emphasize the shape by putting a little bit of a white halo around it. Now the China marker is like a creamy color, so that already is quite beautiful. And just using the design principle of repetition will already give this little page a little bit of presence. So once you have done the China marker, we're going to wet the page and add some ink to it. But I'm going to go ahead and just quickly do all of these so that we have a few pages, because it goes rather quickly. And it's always fun to just play on some paper and create some collage papers that you can play with. I really find a lot of joy in creating my own collage elements rather than just using store-bought. I love store-bought. There's even some downloads that I want to get printed from other artists that, you know, sell their papers that you can use in your art. But you know, the cheapest way is to go about this is to just create your own. You know, don't wait for, you don't have to spend money. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't have to spend money in order to be creative. You can be actually more creative by creating your own pages that's unique to yours, uniquely yours. So I'm just going to use a water spray bottle now, and I'm just really going to wet my pages. I'm working on a kitchen towel here, and because this is ordinary office paper, it is going to curl up on me, but I'm giving it a good soak. I'm going to give it just a few seconds so that the water can saturate the paper. So I'm going to move that up a little bit. And believe it or not, there's still a little bit of water that floats on the surface of the page. So I've got some drawing ink or acrylic ink here, and this is just my magenta. And I'm going to use the magenta here with the pink. Just encourage the ink to go where I want it. This is turquoise from Dollaroni. Love their inks. And I'm going to use my Viridian green on this page here. Also from Dollar. So that's quite intense. Let me just get a brush here. Something absorbent maybe. I'm going to use my watercolor brush. Get some water, and I need another kitchen towel. There we go. It's nice to sometimes just come and share some of these inks. Just create some interesting moments before taking it all away. So I'm just going to drag my watercolor brush over that page. I'm just taking out the water so that it can mop up some of the water without diluting the ink even more. It's a technique that I learned in watercolor that is quite useful when you want to control the water flow on your page. All of these pages to be so super dark, because acrylic inks is quite intense as far as vibrancy is concerned. So if you don't want that intense, you can always offload a little bit. Let's add a little bit of that magenta over here, because magenta, turquoise and phthalo green works rather well together. It can create this beautiful grey lavender tone that I quite love. This is going to have a little bit of a tie-dye sort of vibe, which is quite nice. So you can see how the water is resisted by the China marker, giving me these sort of whiter spaces that is quite beautiful as it dries and develops. I'm going to just dab a little bit here and there as well. It's okay to lift off some color as well. I really quite like that tie-dye kind of effect. So I'm going to set these aside to dry, and we're going to continue to play with the pages that is already dry. So I'll be right back. Right, so now I've got my art journal open, and I'm thinking to just play a little bit with some magenta colors in order to just bring these two pages together. So in a very playful manner, I think I must try to repeat this resist method now as well, and just see if there's anything else that it can maybe add to this page. So let's repeat these patterns that I am playing with on this page, and I'm just gonna let it run off the page here. You might not be able to see it now, and who knows, we might not be able to see it at all, but I'm hopeful. So I think that's nice. So let's put one up there. Okay, just get the excess off. So I'm thinking I've got my page protectors in here, and there's nothing major happening on the other side of these pages, and that side is sealed, so I'm thinking I'm okay to go. But yes, let's play with this magenta ink and see what will happen. Those who don't dare won't win. I don't want it to be too wet, so I'm just going to use my catalyst wedge and just pull this ink over the page, and I'm quite liking where this is going. That's nice. Quite like that. I think I'm going to repeat it on this side as well. It turned out nicer than I thought, so yay! Let's play with some of this magenta ink over here as well. Now this pink squiggles underneath is oil pastel, sorry I always forget the word. So that in itself will give me its own little pattern and happening, so that's nice. Quite like what happened there. I think I'm gonna do the same with a bit of turquoise. What do you guys think? We need a bit of variety on here, and seeing that our palette today is turquoise and magenta, why not? So I'm gonna continue, but let's play with a little bit more with my China marker. So let me show you guys how I unravel this little tool. Just be careful towards the end so you don't break it. They are quite soft. So it's used in the clothing industry to with pattern makers. So let's see. Let's add more of these shapes, but now let's go a little bit bigger and bring these two pages together. So I'm gonna go over these bigger shapes a few times to emphasize their shape. Going off the page is always fun to me. So it's almost like repeating a pattern. So it gives it more and more sort of relevance because I'm repeating it. Rather playfully, not too serious about how perfect the shapes are made. Right, so let's go for the ink moment. Again, I'm going to use my catalyst. Ink in between the crevice there. Oh, I'm missing my coffee. You know, it's a creative process. Let me just save myself. Right, now that I saved myself from my own coffee spill, these things happen. I am going to continue to play with my little page here. And everything is dry, so I can add some elements to this. That will be nice. So I'm really loving this little number and this little number, so I'm definitely going to add it to this page. Let's maybe tear off a section. So you want to be able to add something else to the mix as well. I'm going to take that corner off there. That feels a bit harsh as well. Cool, that feels a little bit better. If we add it, oh, that looks interesting. Okay, but like that. Okay, so what have I done with my glue? Let me just find my glue quickly. I think I put it away for another section. There we go. So let me glue this down. So it's quite fun to see what you can do with your art materials and what sort of textures and vibes all of these methods can give your art. And you know, I really believe the beauty in acrylic paint and in multimedia really lies in the layers that you add to your work. And that's one way to create instant interest and beauty, is just to add layers to your work and not just be one-dimensional. Because you know, acrylics can look very flat and your work can look very unfinished if you don't layer it. So I really want to encourage you to think on your pages in your art journal or on your canvas. Think about how you can layer your backgrounds so that the story that you begin to tell can begin to take shape and form through those layers. So that is really beautiful. Right, just going to place that nicely in the corner. Like that. Right, and our page is active. It has begun. The story is unfolding, and we are telling a story through the repetition of our shapes that we are playing with. And it's all of these thumbprints, and these ones are going in an opposite direction. There's variety of bigger and smaller. So this is really beginning to look interesting. I think we need to add a little bit of quiet space to this composition. So I'm thinking to use some of my tissue paper now and to switch over to my acrylic medium and a nice soft brush. Here we go. And I'm going to use just a normal round brush just to almost repeat the shapes that we've just done. So I'm going to just make a bigger one of this. So emphasize the shape by putting a bigger one on the page, repeating the pattern. Let's put that aside and maybe see where this can overlap and become interesting. That looks nice. Of course, this is going to be very translucent, but I don't want it to be completely in the middle of the page. So let's play a little bit here on the side like this. I think that will be interesting. Okay, so let me get some acrylic medium here on my side. This is just my smear off page that I work on, and in doing so, rubbing off all the excess paint and medium on there really becomes a beautiful piece of paper later that I can use as collage. So I really try to think of all the ways that I can give myself material to play with and to use in my artwork. So this is one way to use that awareness, and in a way I'm saving a lot because I'm throwing a lot less away, or a lot less paint ends up just, you know, being rinsed and thrown down the drain, so to speak. That's nice. So that tissue shape just gave me a little bit of a toning there that is quite beautiful. I'm going to add Let's add a little bit of this green that we have on this side over there as well. And I think I'm going to do a smaller version of that shape. I'm just using water to draw the shape on the tissue and then I tear it out. So I like that ragged edge because it sort of gives it a bit of a blend. Okay, and this green I think I'm going to put over here so some of that can peek out over that part of the page that is still a neutral color. That looks nice. Alrighty then. Let's add a bit of this green up here as well. So painting with tissue paper. Yes, something there will be interesting. Sort of unifying this part of the collage. Ooh, got stuck to my finger. Looks pretty. Okay, let's bring in a little bit of the pink as well. Again, I'm going to stick to the same shape with maybe a smaller one still, and then a larger one on the other side. So let's make a nice big fat one. That might be an interesting mix. And this one up here. Okay. Again, some masking. I actually prefer to put some medium under my tissue, but because my page is quite wet, I'm more confident that it will go down smoothly. But if you work on a canvas, I've seen, especially if you work with bigger pieces, it's better to put down some acrylic medium underneath your tissue paper before you put it down, so that there's something that can soak up the acrylic medium, and otherwise it can leave little pockets of air that can make your tissue paper look lighter than you intended it to be, so just be mindful of that. That's cute. Right. Quite like all the elements. Now I think it's time to bring in some focus into our work. So let me see here, what have I got? I've got some interesting little scraps from gift bags that I thought would be nice to bring in. It's almost like washi tape. Interesting. Okay. Just some quiet moments there. I think I need a bit more of the quiet moments as well. So this is what the gift bag looks like. So I'm just going to tear a section off there. Just give it a good old rip so that there's some quiet with the, oops, that's still very wet. Some quiet with the pattern. want it like that, or do I want it like that? I don't know. Right, now that the page is dry, I've got some beautiful pastel papers from my pad, and it's really just student grade butterfly pastel paper for projects. I love to use that when I'm looking for some neutral paper that is not too thick, because a collage element page can become quite thick. So what I've done is I got the lavender, and I got the green, and I got the blue, and you can see how beautifully this all matches up, and also how beautiful my sort of focus paper will look on it. So I'm quite excited now to bring this home and get this all together. So I thought I wanted to use this almost like reflections on water. It sort of reminds me of lily pads now. And because I've turned it around in a variety of ways on the page, it doesn't really matter how I orientate it, but I do want to leave some of this to stick out, and I don't want to lose everything here. And I did think I want to sort of use a little bit of the green there, because this was sort of my inspiration there for a minute. But I thought this paper is already quite thick, so I wanted to get a color close to that. So this is what I'm going to use, and I'm just going to tear it into a nice kind of shape that we already have on this page. It's just a bigger version of it, and I think I'm going to tear, I don't know, it doesn't want to tear so very well because there's like a layer of plastic on it, so I'm just going to give myself a nice interesting sort of trim there. I think that can look very nice. So this is quite busy, so I want to use a little bit of a larger piece of this. Just tear it in an interesting way. I don't want straight lines necessarily. I don't mind it on the bottom, but I don't want to cover up everything, so I'm going to take that out so we don't lose this special moment there. And all of these smaller pages, you can decide whether that piece is worth saving or not, because sometimes you only need a small little piece, and that's why I add these scraps to my little, what do you call it, scrap bag. So I'm going to make a smaller shape out of that, like so. Let's see, I think this can also be made smaller. It doesn't have to be that big. Sort of repeat it or place it in an interesting way on that page. I quite like that, but this is not coming together for me here. What do we need? What do we need? Shall we turn it? Oh, yes, that sparks joy for me again. Taking the eye upward on the page, and this is taking it sideways. I like it. I'm going to put it down like that. So here we go. Sometimes if you do a complex kind of collage, it's a good idea, if you've placed your papers, to just take a photograph of it before you disassemble all the pieces, so that you sort of can see where you've placed what. Otherwise it might end up looking a little bit different to the way when you plotted your page out, so be mindful of that. So I think it was roughly about here, covering up some cross lines of collage elements. And my page is not entirely dry, it's dry enough to continue to work on. Now I must be very careful of where I put this, just so that I can get an idea. I tend to turn things around in my mind, and then when I bring it to the page to put glue on it, then I turn it around and then I stick it down exactly where I didn't want it. So sometimes, you know, it's the way the cookie crumbles. There we go. Now it's nicely coming together. I'm going to try with this glue. If it comes loose, I will use PVA, but I think we might get away with this craft glue. This is also where I like to use another piece of tissue and just lay it down so that I can really press down on the pages without directly touching the collage elements, because Lord knows sometimes the glue smears on your page or something like that, and then you sit with a dirty collage element. Okay, that looks nice. Okay, let's do this one as well. So that's going to be like that. Okay. I really enjoy these pastel kind of colors. It's fun and it's inspiring to me. And always fun to try something new. And that looks good. Just get that down nicely. Awesome. Now for the piece de resistance. That's going to be so beautiful. I hope you guys are enjoying playing with me, hanging out with me in my studio, creating beautiful pages in my art journal and exploring, you know, all of the art principles and elements. You know, I am a self-taught artist, and so I'm not professing to know everything beyond what I've experienced and figured out for myself, and through my own research and trying to try things out for myself and exploring in my art journal, I've discovered more about my own art ethos than a lot of artists do when they go to art school. Because in art school you have to comply with whatever is on their curriculum. And although you learn about all of these amazing things like art principles and elements of design and mixing of color, and you get exposed to all kinds of amazing information, I find that not a lot of artists takes the time to get to know their own art language. So exploring your art journal in this way is definitely one way to do that, is to find your own sort of art language. And by the time we get to the end of this current journal, and we're very close to it, I think we've got like 12 to 15 pages left to do, then this art journal will be full, and I'm going to intentionally leave the last 2 pages of this art journal for an archival process that I will show you guys closer to the time that we're going to do to sort of analyze what we did in our journal thus far, and to find those elements and color selections and compositions and shapes that you have used a lot, and you sort of start to see, but that's part of my sort of visual language. I must investigate that more and, you know, develop it more and use more of it in my bigger artwork, and that is really a profound moment. So I'm looking forward to getting to that. So pulling that out, I think we arrived at a very good place in our little art journal today, using resist methods to create texture, interest, variety, pattern, rhythm, movement, contrast, all of the above. So that is really exciting, and just keeping it very simple today. I'm loving the colors, I'm loving the simplicity of the shapes that I've added to it. You can obviously doodle more on it, but I quite like these quiet moments with the busyness in the background and how it jumps right back at the front. So I think I'm just gonna give it a good glaze of medium and let it dry, and then I will take a photograph for you guys when I'm done. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new here, remember to subscribe, like my videos, and join me over on my Facebook group, The Creative Heart, where I continue to support you in your creative journey. So thanks for tuning in again. I'll see you guys again next week. Bye bye for now. And there you have it. We have acrylic resist techniques that we played with today in our art journal, and we created this beautiful entry into this special book of creativity. And all that we've used today was some collage elements that we created using the resist technique, and I played with this little China marker. It is a wax-based crayon that is used in the material industry, so it's easy to get, and by drawing this on the page and washing with color over it, you get this resist method and beautiful patterns and textures in your work. And that is how we created all of our elements today. So I'm eager to see what you guys are going to do with this week's prompt. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys again next week. Bye bye for now.